Sports aren't just about scoreboards and championships. They are also about shaping leaders and opening up opportunities, especially for young women. A survey from Ernst & Young and ESPNW found that a stunning 94% of women in the C-suite have played sports, half of them in college or university, like these former athletes: Michelle Bachelet, Christine Lagarde, Indra Nooyi, Ursula von der Leyen, and of course, these two women here with me today. So, let's get into it. Ashlyn, you began your career with U.S. Soccer at age 13. And Alicia, you played field hockey and lacrosse. And not to toot my own horn, but I was a junior Olympic gold medalist in rhythmic gymnastics. Thank you. I was 10. No, please, I was 10. It was not a big deal. It was a big deal to me. What were the skills or experiences you gathered through sports that you feel shaped your lives?
Start? Okay. Look, and I'm not surprised to hear that statistic about women in business and having a childhood filled with sports. Leaders today, I find that the best ones are the ones that possess tremendous curiosity, grit, determination, overcoming adversity. I mean, look at the world that we live in today. And if you don't have those qualities as a leader, then your ability to really lead change or institute change on some level and create a followership is going to be really limited. And I absolutely credit those skills that I bring to my role at Delta from everything that I achieved on an athletic field through my early days and through college as well. Learning about how to work with a team, learning about the different roles that everybody plays, and why those individual roles are just as important as those roles coming together to form a single team against a single vision, and you all needing to move in the same direction, giving your best individually, but then how that all comes together as a team, and then overcoming the hardships, the grit, the sacrifice, the curiosity, all of those things. That's what I learned from sports, and that's what I bring every day in my leadership at Delta.
Beautifully said. And you sit at the top and you live it, which it's always amazing to share space with you. I agree. Sports have shaped my life. So many great fundamental aspects of who I am is because of how I live my life in sport. And it's taught me so much about, how to be a good human, how to be a good mom. And I really carry everything I've learned with me in terms of, my resilience, how to overcome failure, how to be graceful in success, how to very quickly learn to adapt and pivot. I think there's just so many incredible aspects, but one I have to say was just so big for me is it put me in my body. It made me feel powerful. What my body was capable of doing was something so beautiful, and we all come in different shapes and sizes, but I think as women, especially in media and sports and culture, where we feel so small and shameful in the way our body is, and sport really put me in mine, and I'm grateful for that.
You got started at an age when most girls are dropping out of sports at 2 times the rate of boys, according to a 2008 study. I think probably part of it has to do with what you're saying about your body, but what do you think are some of the barriers for girls in sports?
Yeah, I think especially in this Western culture, we look at women, media and advertisement has a big lesson to learn in how they promote certain body types. And I think a lot of young children look at what they see and think, ooh, I don't look like that. And they feel this overwhelming sense of shame. And, they don't feel like they belong. And I think we have to keep showing that our bodies are built very differently and beautiful, and women and young girls don't have to feel the shame of dropping out at such an early age due to how they view themselves in their own skin. So I do think we have a massive obligation to really shift the narrative that you have to be thin, tall, skinny, lean, athletic. Like, we have to check so many boxes. It feels really daunting at times, and not all of us are built the same. And we need to embrace the beauty, and every single sport needs a different type of power, and we have to embrace that.
Do you feel like sports helped you embrace that and also weather challenges that a young girl at 13, 14 might be experiencing?
Yeah, I did. It taught me a lot about confidence. And like I said before, just owning who I was in my own body and not always comparing myself to what I saw in other people. So I think there were so many valuable lessons that I learned. However, what I'll say is I played with boys until I was 15. So it was never about the way I looked. It always was about the way I performed. And I was damn good at my job. So I didn't carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. I just knew I was good enough to play until I was 15 with boys.
And to keep playing and
to
win World
playing.
Cups, multiple World Cups. Alicia, you assumed your role as Delta's CMO in 2023, and in that time, Delta has continued to make important investments in women's sports. Most recently, Delta became the official airline of the WNBA, in addition to its partnerships with the National Women's Soccer League, supporting female athletes in the golf space, and serving as an official partner for Team USA. So why are women's sports such an important focus for Delta?
Well, first, let me just back up and say, when I took this role, and I've had the fortunate privilege of being in a leadership role for quite some time now, and you'll hear me maybe say this a couple of times today, but when you are a female and you make it to your highest level, there's a lot of responsibility that I've always believed comes with that. Because it's not necessarily because I was the smartest one in the room, but I got that role. And I want to bring other women along. And I have practiced 25 years of a career in doing just that. And so my ability to lead Delta and take on the official airline of the NWSL, official airline of WNBA, official airline of Team USA, and many female Olympic and Paralympic athletes. We are also sponsor of many LPGA female athletes as well, and the list continues. We at Delta, and through my leadership, we believe it is a responsibility to bring other women up. And it's interesting if you use Delta and the airplane as a metaphor. We are in the business of very simply getting people from point A to point B. But it's not necessarily that aspect that's the most important. It's where we're taking our customers to. Because every single one of our customers are on a journey. And that journey could be to go get that big moment on the athletic field, to close their next business deal, to celebrate a birthday or a family reunion. And so it's all about journeys. And so as we look to invest in women and women's sports, we want to invest in their journeys because that's the piece that becomes the most relatable. So if we can tell the stories of these leagues and these athletes that we are partnering with, that's when you really build the fandom that is necessary in the league to bring the necessary visibility that happens. Because to be clear, the followership doesn't necessarily happen at the league level. It happens at the athlete level, because that's where you relate. That's where we can all relate. And so through the work that we do with NWSL or WNBA in particular, we are telling the stories of the journeys of the athletes so that we can create that relevance with the average person that's not going to be at Ashlyn's level to say, okay, wow, they had that challenge when they were growing up. Wow, they had that challenge in their household. We can relate to that. And so we now become relatable with each other, so therefore I then want to follow Ashlyn. And that's how you then build up the visibility in sport that these women leagues absolutely deserve and need. And so that's the responsibility that we take at Delta.
Amazing. Ashlyn, before you retired, you were a big part of the fight for equal pay in women's soccer. And when that historic deal was reached, you said that your hope was that younger kids wouldn't have to work as hard as you did and could just focus on their soccer skills. Investing in the next generation is one of our themes today. What would you say inspired you to help secure the future for the next crop of soccer stars?
Well, I think it's interesting when you think about how society tells, especially here, we as women, we are always told we have to be small and we have to take up less space. And I think our team was very bullish and bold and brave. And we said, how are we going to go out to these sold out stadiums of 60,000 plus people and preach this dream when we're so underpaid and so undervalued? We were having these behind the scenes conversations and we're like, where is all this money going? Because it's not going in our pockets. And we started asking the right questions, and we came to find out that the men would make more money than us just by showing up. So it was a really we reflected on it, and we were like, okay, we have to be bold in this moment, and it's going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to shed a light that's not going to make the Federation look great, and we might not reap the benefits of it. But for the next generation, it is our job and our duty and responsibility to pave the way for this next generation. And we took that very seriously. And it took 6 years in court. We dedicated all of our ticket sales to our lawyers in terms of revenue money, which we weren't being paid fairly then either. And we did win. And it took 6 years, and now U.S. soccer does have equal pay for men and women, and we'll never see the benefit, and that's okay. But the reality is, the second we stop playing, and especially for someone as decorated as I am, I've won World Cups, I've been to the Olympics, I've won several NWSL championships. The second I retired, I had to have a job lined up to make sure I could provide for my children and myself, keep a roof over my head, and most men in my position would not have to have this same conversation. So that is why it's so important. We continue talking about it, we continue being brave, we continue having the courage to ask the hard questions, but change the landscape of how we view women in this culture.
Amazing. I could talk to you two all day. We don't have that much more time, so I'll just ask this. Alicia, this February you were honored as one of the most powerful women in sports at the 6th Annual Sports Power Brunch. As you've gotten to know and interact with athletes across your career, have there been any lessons or takeaways that have helped you reimagine your day-to-day in business as a business leader?
It honestly, it's just about the continued responsibility. I mean, my ability to be honored in sports, in women's sports in particular, is because of that responsibility that I know that I hold. And not every person who's in a position of power and influence with a platform recognizes that responsibility. And I think if we all did equally, and we all recognized what the issues are that deserve attention, then the world has hope to be a much better place. But that's going to take time. And so for me, it's how do I continue to use our platform at Delta, use the power and the influence that I have to bring other companies like Delta along in the sense of investing in women's sports. All these things are tied together. The more investment, the more it gets to where it is best deserved, which is at the player level, so that we can more quickly get to the levels of the men's leagues that exist. And that's not going to happen without support from many different ways or many different areas. And that of the corporate level is one such way that we can help inspire that change and lead that change. And again, get that financial investment into the players that so rightly deserve that. And I learned that from the grit, the determination, the overcoming adversity that athletes so very demonstrate every single time they're out there. We've got to bring that same view on behaviors to the leadership level in the corporate space as well. And then us locking arms together because of our shared values, that's when you start to see real change happen.
Yeah, completely agree. We have to wrap this up, or we don't have to wrap this up. Lucky you.
Added time.
We added some time that I didn't notice till just now. Okay, let's do this then. Women's sports are having an incredible moment, which is a phrase that I feel like we've been hearing, but now we're really embodying. It is having an incredible moment, thanks in part to the work that you and the generations before the one that we're in now did. Who are your favorite athletes at the moment? Who are you paying attention to and following right now?
Well, I will say we're done with the moment. We're here with the movement.
Ooh.
Yes. We are having a movement. We've had plenty of moments in the past, and I am hopeful through people like yourself that this won't come and go, that this will just keep rising and setting the standard of what is possible. I am very into athletes who stand behind causes, who have the joy to not only do their sport, but lift everyone around them. So I love following like a Simone Biles, who is an advocate for mental health, understands, how hard it is to do what we do and shed light on the things that people have no idea what we experience and closed doors to perform and create entertainment for the public. It is not that easy to live at the top. The air is very thin at the top. And I love athletes like herself who continue to pave the way and create space to say, this is hard, I'm having a hard time or a moment, and I need help. So I live life through storytelling. I think it's so important because we are role models, whether we choose it or not. And if we can make this place better, that is our responsibility. So she is one person I am always advocating for to continue to stand up and talk about the hard taboo topics no one wants to talk about.
Alicia?
Yeah, I mean, Simone is a great one. So I'll embarrass Ashlyn here. So even though she's not playing anymore, she is still playing, in my mind, right? She is taking what was her life and now bringing it to the next level. She's not stopping. And to me, that's what you need to admire. When you ask about, what are the players of today that you admire, I actually still see Ashlyn as a player of today. She has just now taken her career to the next level in advocating so much for what these athletes rightly deserve. And to me, that is also part of the job and a very much big part of the job that's undone. And I think that if we can have every player think about when they start to think about that sort of daunting moment of sort of what's next, there is so much to do, and it's having that courage to recognize where did you come from and what were the challenges, and how do I now use the platform that I built in the next stage of my career to lift others up that are now going to come after me, or maybe even those who think it's too overwhelming, or they don't have the body type, or they don't have the followership, or they don't think that they're going to get the investment to go anywhere significant. If we can bring those voices together, and I think Ashlyn's doing such a beautiful thing just being here and being out there advocating for what matters, that's the true mark of a person who recognizes that her job is undone. And to me, that's where my greatest admiration exists.
Thank you.
That was very sweet. I think one thing that would be a good access point for anybody in the room that may be thinking, wow, this sounds amazing, and I really just don't have any background in women's sports. I don't know where to start. Do you have teams that you were following that maybe people could look into and be like, oh, I also love Gotham. This is a great team. Who are you guys following and rooting for?
I love the Liberty. The New York Liberty here in Brooklyn.
Yes, yes, yes.
We are about to start a new WNBA season, and they are just so electric. And Barclays, when I walk into that stadium, I get a moment to reflect and look around and see that it's sold out, and it's a moment of I can take a deep breath and be like, yeah, we're here, we're doing it. We're literally seeing it in real time. And I didn't know if we would experience this even in my lifetime. So to be able to see what I experience on that court is something I'll take with me forever. So I highly recommend everyone go to the Liberty games.
Quick shout out for Ellie, the mascot. One of the best mascots in all of sports. Alicia, do you have any teams you're following?
I mean, look, so first off, there are so many teams that are out there, be it National Women's Soccer League, which is underway this season, and you've got WNBA, which will soon be underway. I think the Liberty is a great call out sitting here in New York. Follow the players, right? And, in a lot of ways, it's sort of, I become less enamored with the teams, if you will, and I get more about the players, because I think what I've seen today, and I'll give you a great example. Cameron Brink with the WNBA. She's a brand ambassador of ours for Delta, and I can name so many other athletes like Cameron. These women today, they're bringing their whole self to the game, right? You look at their social media feeds, and they are fashion influencers. They are investing in their communities. They're standing up for issues that matter. And they are world-class professional athletes. And so I think this idea of bringing your full self, and I use Cameron Brink as an example, because it's one of the reasons why we recently made the decision to partner with her, is because she does bring her full self. And so when you see her out there, she's not afraid to dress up and look stylish and look amazing, or to use her voice to talk about things that matter and that are going to help us lead through some necessary change. And so, do some research, find the players that are out there, find their stories. We're working hard at Delta to really, on the content side, use our platform to tell the stories of these athletes, because boy, they're so much more relatable to all of us as humans than you otherwise wouldn't know, because you mostly just see them playing their sport. But what it took to get each of them there, it's amazing. And I'll tell you what, it really does enable you to have a much deeper level of an appreciation for truly what it took and what it takes to keep them there as well.
As a former little girl, I will say, having women like we're seeing now in the WNBA and the platforms they have, and like you said, the way they're not afraid to be fashionable and powerful and confident, it would do wonders for what I would think I could achieve, because I can see them out here doing it. Ashlyn, is there a moment in your career, you have so many, I know, an embarrassment of riches, but if you had to pick a moment in your career that maybe wasn't the one that everybody else noticed or cared about, but that you felt really shaped you as a woman, as a person, not just within the sport, but outside of it?
Yeah, I think as humans, when we make it to the top, we always get the question about legacy. I think it's a really interesting thing. And for me, playing the sport that I loved, coming from what I came from, getting a free education, and all of these things were so pivotal in giving me opportunity that I otherwise wouldn't have had. And trust me, the winning was fantastic, but it was short-lived for me. I think when you get to a certain level, you always think, what's next? And you can't really sit in the moment, because that feels like a complacent place to be that most performing athletes don't want to get stuck in. So I'll say this, I'm so privileged and so lucky to have lived a beautiful, successful, long career that ended on my terms. I will say the one moment that has stood out to me forever that really had nothing to do with winning, losing championships was at the 2019 Women's World Cup in France that we ended up winning. There was a moment in the game that most of us as U.S. national team players, the fans would chant USA, USA, and it was just a sea of people. And I kept listening, and I heard equal pay, equal pay, equal pay. And this is in another country. So what I've realized in that moment, and when you think about the word legacy, it was that where I realized we are really about to change something so impactful. It's not only going to affect the women and people in our own country, but globally give people the courage to fight for what they're worth. And that to me is legacy. That to me is what I'll carry with me every room I walk into, every place I go to, looking at my little daughter and raising a beautiful woman who will know her worth and know how to stand tall in rooms. That moment moved me forever.
It's beautiful. Beautiful and incredible that the fight that you fought lifted up, had it reverberations across the world for women's soccer, not just here in the US, which I think we should emphasize. You have a global impact on the sport, and it's really incredible to know you. Alicia, I don't want to overlook that you were also an athlete. Proof
Well,
that you
not
can,
at Ashlyn's level.
That's
Let's
okay.
Just be very clear here.
You exist as proof that youth athletics can instill in you skills that will help you grow and thrive in not just sports. What was your best moment of your field hockey career?
Well, I would say look, there are so many moments. I love how Ashlyn said, it's like, winning's always fantastic, but there's so many other elements that go into being part of a team that can easily be more recognized. But what I would say is it was less of a particular moment, but more about this unlock inside of me that occurred when I was playing. I kind of grew up I was more of this very observant child, or one who more kind of listened than spoke. I was quiet. And when I walked out on the field, though, I morphed into this different person who was aggressive in a good way, had a voice, really loved bringing people together, and instilling a sense of camaraderie around us. Like, I found that in me. And that was what the unlock that came with being part of sports that sort of then led me to being able to be a leader, which is a privilege in certainly the role that I sit in today, and then the roles that I've had that came before this one. But it's boy, when you're out there with a team and you're all fighting for the same thing, and you need to sort of recognize what everybody's roles are, but then how do you then come together collectively, and especially when you're young. I mean, I I started playing field hockey and lacrosse when I was in 5th grade, and I took that all the way through college. I mean, what do you know when you're in 5th grade? And it's like what you spend that time just like naturally figuring out amongst you as a team. It is to me, my role on an athletic field is what I most singularly credit for all the leadership qualities that I possess today that I'm the most proud of. And I credit that entirely to my role in sports.
Amazing. Alicia Tillman, Ashlyn Harris, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For everything. Our discussion may be ending, but there are actions you can take. They're just beginning. We wanted to leave you, they always say to leave with action items, right? That's a big thing in the corporate world. So here are some for you if you want to support women's sports. You can buy a ticket to a game. If you can't make it to a game, buy merch. Lots of good t-shirts, merch, sweatshirts. You can follow a women's sports league on social media, or like we were saying before, specifically a female athlete. Or you could volunteer with a local youth sports team. There's a lot of ways to affect this area of growth. And I think a lot of people are excited about and participating in, and we look forward to seeing you all at a game sometime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, ladies.